Her mystery wasn't a game. It was an inner life. And nothing compels a man like the feeling of being invited into eternity. By Carl Jung.
Have you ever noticed how some women seem to have an invisible hold on a man's heart long after the relationship ends? No matter how much time passes or how far apart they are, he keeps coming back. It's not about manipulation, looks, or even chemistry. The real reason goes much deeper, buried in the hidden layers of the male psyche. And one of history's greatest psychologists, Carl Jung, uncovered exactly why this happens. Jung revealed that men don't just fall for a woman. They unconsciously project their deepest ideals onto her. It's called the anima, the feminine imprint that shapes what a man desires, craves, and ultimately can't forget. In this video, we're going to explore 5 timeless reasons men always come back to women after intimacy. These are not dating tricks or surface-level tips. They are deep truths rooted in Jungian psychology about projection, archetypes, individuation, and the shadow. And when a woman understands this psychological force, she doesn't just attract a man, she becomes unforgettable. So if you've ever wanted to know why men return to certain women even after intimacy or a breakup, the answer isn't about playing games. It's about something far more powerful. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to leave that kind of lasting mark. Before we begin, if these kinds of Jungian insights speak to your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel Jungian Mind Shift. It helps this community of wisdom seekers grow, and it ensures you never miss the next reflection. Let's begin with the first truth, a force more powerful than beauty, more lasting than passion.
1. After intimacy, presence. What lingers in a man's heart is rarely the physical act of intimacy itself. What he remembers, often unconsciously, is the afterglow, the way a woman breathes in the quiet moments that follow, the softness in her laughter, the stillness of her body resting beside him. It is her presence without pressure, her ability to simply exist without demand. These subtle moments create anchors in his memory, impressions that cannot easily be erased even when time and distance intervene. Carl Jung often reflected on such moments as a natural experiment of intimacy. He observed that after passion there arrives a silence, and within that silence the truth of a relationship is revealed more clearly than during the act itself. Consider 2 women in the same situation. One feels restless and distracted. She quickly turns to her phone, her attention dissolving into the outside world. The fragile field of intimacy collapses back into routine. The other remains. She rests her hand lightly upon the man's chest, her breathing gently falling into rhythm with his own. She neither demands nor withdraws, but allows the silence to breathe, as though intimacy itself had expanded beyond the body into a communion of souls. When Jung reflected on these contrasting responses, he noted that the man's memory was not tied to detail, but to atmosphere. Months later, he might not recall the exact sequence of events, but the impression endured. The sense of peace, the safety of being accepted without demand, the rare experience of the world falling quiet. It is in these moments, Jung concluded, that love carves its deepest grooves into the unconscious. This is why men so often return to the women who embody such presence, even when reason tells them to move on. Jung once remarked that feeling is the organ of relationship. Presence after intimacy is precisely this, a feeling that deepens connection beyond words. Intimacy, he believed, opens the unconscious, loosening the boundaries of the persona, the mask we wear in daily life. After passion, when defenses are lowered, a man is no longer the warrior, the worker, or the father. He is simply a soul, vulnerable and exposed. In this tender state, what he meets in the woman beside him leaves a profound mark on his psyche. If she meets him with warmth, laughter, and quiet acceptance, he unconsciously associates her with a return to wholeness. This is also the anima at work, the feminine image within a man's unconscious. Jung observed that men project their anima onto women, seeking in them the qualities they long for: comfort, nurturing, emotional depth. After intimacy, when the body is relaxed and the ego subdued, this projection is strongest. If the woman's presence resonates with his inner longing, he feels as though he has touched a sacred part of himself through her. That is why he comes back, not for the act alone, but for the soul state she awakens in him. When this truth is ignored, relationships often drift into emptiness. If a woman rushes away after intimacy, or fills the silence with criticism, anxiety, or demands, the fragile bond dissolves. The man may begin to associate her not with peace, but with tension. He may still desire her body, but not her presence. Over time, intimacy loses its power to heal and becomes merely another transaction. Jung warned that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. When the unconscious need for nurturing is unmet, men often call it fate that relationships simply do not work out. In truth, it is the absence of presence. For women, the application of this insight is both simple and profound. Practice staying. After intimacy, resist the urge to return immediately to busyness or distraction. Allow silence to be your ally. Breathe deeply, close your eyes, and attune to the atmosphere of the moment. Imagine presence as a sacred container. When a man leaves, he carries not only the memory of passion, but also the fragrance of peace. He may try to forget, he may distract himself with others, yet something within him longs to return. Because in a world of constant noise, the woman who can hold silence with grace becomes unforgettable. Men always come back to women who linger in the afterglow, who embody presence rather than pressure, who transform fleeting encounters into timeless impressions. This is the first secret of intimacy through Jung's eyes, that what follows passion is just as important, perhaps even more so than the act itself.
2. Mystery and the eternal feminine. A woman with depth, with dreams and passions, with layers that unfold gradually, becomes endlessly intriguing. Mystery is not the shallow act of playing hard to get, nor is it a strategy designed to manipulate affection. True mystery arises when a woman is genuinely multifaceted, when her inner life is so rich that she cannot be reduced to a single role or simple impression. Carl Jung once counseled a patient who struggled to understand why he could not let go of a particular woman. In their conversations, the man admitted that at first he noticed only her smile, warm and inviting, nothing unusual beyond its kindness. But as time passed, more was revealed. She was a painter, and her art carried fragments of her childhood, small pieces of her soul translated into color and form. Later he discovered her love for astronomy, how she could spend long hours beneath the stars, speaking of constellations as though they were lifelong companions. Each revelation unsettled him, not with confusion, but with fascination, for each layer drew him deeper. Even when separated, his mind circled back to her. He confessed that she remained with him, not because she withheld affection, but because she unfolded herself in a way that seemed endless.
For Jung, this account illustrated the power of the anima, the feminine image within a man's unconscious. The anima guides him inward and evolves as he matures. In youth, it may appear in projections of beauty or maternal care, but later it seeks wisdom, artistry, and spirituality. The woman described by the patient resonated so strongly with his anima, not because she tried to fit his ideals, but because she embodied her own richness. In her, he glimpsed a sacred part of himself. This is also the essence of what Jung, drawing from Goethe, called the eternal feminine. It is not a stereotype of charm or seduction, but a timeless archetype that calls humanity upward toward meaning and wholeness. For a man, encountering a woman who embodies this quality is like discovering a hidden guide. Her passions and creativity mirror his own inner journey. She is not simply a partner, but a reminder of the vastness of life and of the soul. The danger of neglecting this truth is evident. Many relationships lose vitality not because love fades, but because depth is abandoned. When a woman silences her passions, hides her dreams, or orbits entirely around a man, she ceases to embody mystery. She may be safe and dependable, but she no longer stirs wonder. The man may respect her, but he does not ache for her. Intimacy grows predictable, routine sets in, and eventually he looks elsewhere for discovery. Jung often remarked that the greatest challenge of life is to accept oneself completely. For women, mystery requires precisely this acceptance. It means allowing their own passions, quirks, and eccentricities to be visible. A woman who paints, writes, studies, or explores does not become intriguing because she wants attention, but because she is attuned to her soul. In that authenticity, she carries a living mystery that no one can exhaust. Practically, this calls for a return to forgotten passions. A woman might ask herself which dreams she set aside when love, family, or responsibility became the focus of her life. What once stirred her that now lies dormant? By bringing even one of these passions back into daily rhythm, she nourishes herself and creates an aura of depth others cannot ignore. This is not about impressing a man. It is about reclaiming the self. And paradoxically, this self-return becomes magnetic. Jung encouraged active imagination, a practice of speaking with images and figures from the unconscious. Women who cultivate this inner dialogue find their inner lives growing richer. The fruits of such practice show subtly in their gaze, their voice, and their presence. They no longer depend on others to complete them, and it is this very wholeness that makes them magnetic. Men often return to women who embody the eternal feminine because such women awaken both peace and longing. They are like wells from which she drinks, and each time the water tastes new. They offer comfort while keeping discovery alive. Within her presence lies not only companionship, but also a glimpse of eternity. Do you believe that presence after intimacy gives peace? While mystery is what keeps a man coming back, drawn not just to beauty, but to the eternal feminine unfolding in a woman's life.
3. Emotional intimacy over physical. Physical attraction is powerful, but it is never permanent. Beauty fades, bodies change, and the fire of novelty cannot last forever. What endures is emotional intimacy, the bond formed when two people allow themselves to be vulnerable and truly seen. When a man feels deeply understood and accepted without judgment, the woman who gives him this gift becomes part of his inner world. Her presence lingers not because of passion alone,
but because she touched something in him that no one else dared to see. Carl Jung often emphasized that love is not only about the union of bodies, but about the union of souls. In his therapeutic work, he noticed that what men remembered most vividly, years after a relationship ended, were not moments of physical pleasure, but those rare times when they felt seen for who they truly were. One patient told Jung of a moment when his partner sat with him during a period of deep failure. She did not criticize or attempt to fix him. She simply stayed, listened quietly, and finally said, "I see you, even here." For the man, that moment remained unforgettable. It was the instant when he realized that his flaws and disappointments, the parts of himself he usually hid, were met with compassion rather than rejection. Jung described intimacy as a gateway to the unconscious. Within this space, the shadow becomes visible. The shadow is the sum of traits we hide, the fears we conceal, the weaknesses we deny. Men often find it difficult to share their shadow, for society teaches them to be strong, controlled, and successful. Yet when a woman welcomes this hidden side without judgment, she enters his psyche as a healing figure. He remembers not only her touch, but the safety he felt in her presence. Physical attraction excites him, but emotional intimacy transforms him. This transformation is part of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Jung believed that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. A man who shares his vulnerabilities with a woman and finds acceptance begins to integrate his shadow. He no longer needs to hide behind the persona, the mask he wears in daily life. The woman who supports this process becomes etched into his unconscious as a bridge between his outer life and his hidden self. Even if the relationship ends, her role in his inner growth ensures she remains unforgettable. When emotional intimacy is absent, relationships often weaken despite strong attraction. If a woman focuses only on physical connection while avoiding emotional depth, the bond eventually collapses. The man may remain interested in her body, but feels empty when seeking her presence. Over time, he looks elsewhere for meaning, convinced that love has died, when in truth it never deepened. A relationship built only on desire becomes fragile, unable to withstand the tests of time. For women, cultivating emotional intimacy begins with self-awareness. You cannot accept another's vulnerability if you are at war with your own. Practices such as journaling or reflecting on dreams can reveal hidden fears and desires. By acknowledging these parts of yourself, you develop the capacity to accept the shadows of others. This inner work allows you to create a safe space where a man feels seen without judgment. Another step is to practice conscious listening. When a man shares his struggles, resist the urge to interrupt, advise, or solve. Instead, listen with full presence, maintain eye contact, allow silence, and respond with simple acknowledgement. Phrases like, "I understand," or "I hear you," carry a power far greater than lengthy solutions. Such moments carve themselves into memory because they communicate one of the rarest gifts, acceptance. Boundaries matter. Emotional intimacy does not mean losing yourself in another's pain. It means offering compassion without sacrificing your own stability. When a woman maintains her integrity while being open to his vulnerability, she becomes both safe and strong in his eyes. This balance is essential, for it shows that her care arises from wholeness rather than from need. Emotional intimacy can be imagined as a slow-burning ember. Physical attraction may ignite quickly like a spark, but it fades if left alone. Emotional connection is the ember that continues to glow, offering warmth through the night. Men who have experienced this warmth rarely forget it. They may wander, They may distract themselves, but they are drawn back to the woman whose presence gave them that glow. Men always come back to women who create this kind of space. They return to those who accepted their hidden selves, who saw behind the armor and offered compassion without condition. In Jung's language, they return to the woman who became a vessel for both their anima and their shadow, who helped them feel whole, even for a brief moment. If presence after intimacy offers peace and mystery sustains wonder, then emotional intimacy ensures that the memory of wholeness follows him wherever he goes. It is the deepest kind of attraction, and the only one that survives when all others fade.
4. Growth and self-evolution. In every circle of men, the debate eventually arises: should a woman be steady and predictable, or should she continually surprise by reinventing herself? One evening, Jung recorded such a discussion among a group of patients in his seminar. The voices were divided. Some insisted that stability was everything, that a man could only rest if his partner was constant, always the same. "When I come home," one man argued, "I want to know exactly who I'll find. I don't want to return to a stranger." His words echoed the yearning for security, for a partner who could be a harbor in life's storms. Yet another man challenged him. "If she never changes," he said, "then she becomes a routine. I don't want to come home to a harbor if it feels like a prison. What draws me is watching her evolve. Every time I meet her again, she's grown into something more." A third man joined, confessing that he once left a relationship with a woman who was safe and reliable, but static. "She was everything I thought I wanted, but after years I realized I was no longer curious. I knew her story, every line of it. There were no new chapters. My heart drifted elsewhere." Jung listened and noted that both perspectives contained truth. The human psyche needs both stability and transformation. Too much stability becomes stagnation. Too much change becomes chaos. Yet when a woman continues to grow while staying rooted in her essence, she embodies what he called individuation, the process of becoming whole. She is steady enough to be trusted, yet evolving enough to be intriguing. This balance is what makes her unforgettable. One patient described a woman he had known for decades. He explained that every time he saw her, she was different. Once she was studying literature. Another time she had taken up hiking in the Alps. Then she began meditating and spoke of silence in a way that made me rethink my life. She was always changing, but she never lost herself. She remained recognizable, but never finished. That is why I always wanted to see her again. Jung pointed out that growth resonates deeply with the archetype of transformation present in all people. The unconscious longs for renewal. When a man meets a woman who keeps evolving, she mirrors his own potential to grow. He returns, not because of nostalgia, but because she awakens his own journey toward change. In her, he sees a living book with new chapters yet to be written. The danger of ignoring this truth is clear. When growth stops, relationships lose their vitality. A woman who silences her curiosity, hides her passions, or confines herself to familiar roles slowly becomes predictable. She may provide stability, but stability without evolution breeds restlessness. Nostalgia cannot keep love alive forever. What sustains it is curiosity, the feeling that tomorrow holds more to discover. Jung often warned that those who resist growth risk falling into despair. For women, embracing growth means refusing to shrink into roles defined only by others. It means learning, exploring, and transforming, not for the sake of impressing a man, but for the sake of her own soul. This self-evolution is what makes her magnetic.
Practical ways of embracing this include keeping alive a spirit of learning, whether through books, travel, or creative pursuits. It also includes inner growth, the willingness to face one's own shadow, to forgive, to expand emotionally and spiritually. A woman who continues to evolve in this way does not remain frozen in memory. She remains alive in the imagination. Imagine a man remembering two women. One is steady, safe, but unchanged. The other is also steady at her core, yet she grows in ways that challenge and inspire. Which one will he be drawn back to, even after years apart? The answer lies not only in comfort, but in curiosity. Men always return to the women who embody growth because they are drawn to the unfolding story as much as to the person herself. When you look back at your own relationships, what do you feel draws someone back more strongly? The comfort of what you already shared, or the curiosity about who that person is still becoming?
5. Archetypal feminine energies. Carl Jung believed that beneath our everyday personalities lies a deeper layer of the psyche, the collective unconscious. In this realm live the archetypes, primordial images and patterns shared across humanity. These archetypes shape how we see ourselves and how we respond to others. Jung often wrote about the anima, the inner feminine in a man's psyche, but he also acknowledged that women outwardly embody archetypal energies. When lived authentically, these energies awaken something ancient in men. Attraction at this level is less about personality and more about resonance with timeless patterns of femininity. Consider the archetype of the lover. This energy is not limited to sexuality. It is about vitality, passion for life, and the ability to bring beauty into ordinary moments. A man drawn to this archetype feels more alive in her presence, as though she awakens a forgotten flame within him. The queen represents another energy. She radiates dignity, authority, and stability. In her presence, a man feels both challenged and secure, as if standing before someone who commands respect while offering protection. Then there is the sage, embodying wisdom and guidance. A woman who carries this energy inspires reflection. Her presence urges a man to seek meaning, to look beyond surface concerns into the deeper questions of life. These archetypes are not roles to be performed, but natural expressions of the psyche when a woman embraces her fullness. Psychologists after Jung have debated the validity of archetypes. Some argue that they are cultural constructions, shaped by traditions rather than innate structures of the mind. Feminist scholars in particular have questioned whether calling a woman a lover or a queen reduces her individuality and risks locking her into limiting images. Others, however, defend the archetypal perspective, pointing to myths, religions, and literature across cultures that feature remarkably similar images of feminine energy. They argue that these recurring patterns endure because they mirror psychological truths that cut across culture and time. Jung's student, Erich Neumann, took this further in his work, The Great Mother. He showed how images of the feminine, from nurturing mother figures to wise women, appear consistently in human history. To Neumann, these images were not prescriptions for how women should behave, but symbols of energies present in both men and women. When embodied consciously, they give form to timeless human needs and enrich relationships. In more recent decades, other frameworks have emerged. Attachment theorists suggest that what men experience as archetypal attraction may actually reflect echoes of childhood bonds with caregivers. A man who longs for a nurturing woman might be unconsciously reaching for the comfort of early maternal care. Evolutionary psychologists take a different view, suggesting that attraction to archetypal qualities is rooted in survival strategies. Men may be drawn to fertility, wisdom, or stability because these traits historically increased chances of thriving. Critics argue that reducing attraction to biology strips away the symbolic and spiritual depth Jung emphasized. Yet, despite disagreements, most agree that people are powerfully moved by energies that feel larger than the individual. A woman may have her own unique personality, yet when she authentically embodies archetypal energies, she touches something universal in the male psyche. He experiences her not just as herself, but as a living symbol. The lover ignites vitality, the queen commands reverence, the sage awakens reflection, and the mother archetype offers comfort and wholeness. These resonances are rarely articulated in rational terms. Men often describe such women as unforgettable, magnetic, or eternal, without fully understanding why. In Jungian terms, it is the collective unconscious recognizing itself through a living form. Jung also warned that archetypes are double-edged. When lived unconsciously, they can dominate and distort. A woman who identifies too narrowly with the lover may neglect her wisdom or authority. True individuation, for Jung, involves holding these energies in balance, allowing them to flow according to one's stage of life and growth. Authenticity arises not from clinging to a single archetype, but from embodying the diversity of feminine potentials. This is why men often return to women who live these archetypal energies authentically. Such women stir not only desire, but also reverence. They are remembered not just as individuals, but as carriers of something eternal. Attraction of this kind is not about strategy or performance. It is about resonance with ancient patterns embedded in the human psyche.
As we reach the end of this reflection, what stands out is not a set of rules, but a deeper truth. What makes a woman unforgettable is never just surface attraction. It is the way she touches something hidden in the soul, something beyond the moment. Men return not because of nostalgia or habit, but because in her presence they felt transformed. For some, it is peace. For others, it is mystery. For others still, it is the rare experience of being seen without judgment. Whatever the form, the essence is the same. She awakens what Jung called the eternal, the part of us that longs to grow, to unite shadow and light, to move closer to wholeness. Carl Jung once observed that true encounters between people are alchemical. They do not leave us as we were. They change us, quietly but profoundly. The women who embody presence, depth, and authenticity do not need strategies or games. Their gift is simply that they live from their own center, and this inner alignment creates a resonance no man can easily forget. If this message resonated with you, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, Jungian Mind Shift, and share it with those who may need a reminder of their own worth. Together, we are building a space for wisdom seekers to explore love, psychology, and the art of living. And in the next video, we will continue this journey into Jung's vision of archetypes, the timeless patterns that shape not only our relationships, but also the paths of our lives. Until then, stay true to yourself, and remember that authenticity is the greatest magnet of all.